Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to talk about environmental impact in the energy sector. We're going to talk about nature, biodiversity, and climate risks. As you know, I'm Virginia Castellucci, the Head of Sustainability of X Natura. Today, joining me, Lucrezia Palma, Sustainability Specialist, and Francesca D'Agostino, our nature strategist. Okay, just a brief overview of what we're gonna go through today. So first of all, we're gonna go through an introduction of X Natura, our main goals and the main goals of our environmental platform. Then in the next 10 minutes, we're gonna go through an overview of the environmental challenges in the energy sector, showing not only the dependencies, but also impacts on natural resources. And we're gonna let's say see the details of the environmental impact assessment and how the platform can actually help you in performing environmental impact assessment. Then, as usual, we're gonna have an overview of X Natura platform, so a live demo by Lucrezia. In this case, we're gonna see some case study from the energy sector, so photovoltaic, wind power plant, and biogas plant. Then with Francesca, we're gonna see some case studies from our clients. And finally, as usual, we're gonna have the Q&A session, the last 10 minutes. So about that, as you know, you can start writing some question even from the beginning of the webinar. So if you have some question, you can start writing them. And of course, we're gonna answer to all the questions at the end of the sessions. We usually have a lot of questions, so please, if you want to make sure we're gonna answer you, write also your email. So if we will be able to answer to the question today during the Q&A session, we will write to you in the next few days, and answer to your question, okay? Okay, just a few words about us. You know us. If you don't know us, we are X Natura. We are an environmental platform. So we define ourselves a naturtech company. And we have this technological solution for biodiversity assessment, monitoring, regeneration, and dissemination. Those here are all the scientific and institutional partners, some of them actually, we partner with in order to develop our technologies. Up to now, we are monitoring more than 1 million hectares all over the world. We have spread more than 10,000 IoT devices that are monitoring pollinators, birds, but also mammals. This is all around the world. We have more than 500 customers, and we are partnering with more than 15 research centers. As I said before, we consider ourselves, let's say that X Natura is the Natural Intelligent Division and the Technical Division of 3B. And X Natura focuses on monitoring and managing environmental risk and impact. We work with many clients, as I said. They can maybe companies, but also city and natural parks. And we, with our platform, we use different technologies such as remote sensing, sensor on the ground, lab analysis, and on-field survey. So the platform gathered together all this technology in order to give an overview of how nature and biodiversity and the environment is with all the KPIs. Talking about the energy sector, I wanted to give you an overview of all the platform benefits. First of all, the risk and dependencies prioritization analysis. So the platform helps understand when you have a pipeline with hundreds of sites, which are the sites most at risk or that depend on nature, in order to prioritize action and to choose where to invest, in which site to invest. Once we have chosen all the sites where we want to develop the plant, the platform can help doing the scenario analysis for the plant implementation. So the platform is able to generate a complete scenario analysis with future KPI projection to plan the best implementation of energy plan to leverage risk and impacts. The third benefit, of course, is the market benchmark and target verification. So we can define whether the plan meets the targets, such as biodiversity net gain or benchmark comparison, to help define strategic goals and position your company as the market leader. Another benefit is, of course, the click to generate report. We know how much effort we need now to generate a report, while the platform helps you with that. In fact, it has all the necessary information compliant with CSRD, TNFD, SBTN, tailored to meet your specific need in order to report. Faster the bureaucratic practices. This is another benefit. In fact, the platform simplifies data collection. We help reduce administrative complexity, making easier to navigate permitting requirements with authorities. And this is so important. We know how much is complicated. Then compliance with environmental impact assessment, environmental monitoring plan, and finally, transparent communication. In fact, the platform offers live biomonitoring data streaming, making easy to share data with stakeholders. Of course, we know that renewable energy sector is crucial to address climate change. The IPCC highlights that actually we are expanding renewable energy, and it's so important to us to address climate change. In fact, by 2050, the 85% of the global electricity we expect to be renewable energy. And this is, of course, good. But on the other end, this solution demand large land areas. For this reason, it becomes crucial to monitor and mitigate the impact on nature and biodiversity. So, of course, renewable energy sector, as we said, it's crucial, but it's also impacting. It impacts on the habitat change, pollution from materials and chemicals, introduction, for example, of invasive species. So it has a lot of impacts. Think about the fact that, for example, wind turbines are responsible for the death of a lot of birds annually, 60 million tons of waste from solar panels by 2050. So these are some of the key numbers of the impact of the sectors. On the other end, we need to recognize that also the renewable energy highly depend on nature resources. So, for example, water. Think about how the hydroelectric power plants depend on water, how the power plant, solar power plant, or wind plant depend on land. In fact, to develop 1 gigaton wild farm, we need 3,000 hectares of land, but also in terms of materials. In fact, if we want to develop and produce solar panels, wind turbines, and batteries, we need a lot of materials such as lithium. In fact, the lithium production will increase by 40% by 2040. So the renewable energy sector is crucial, impacts, but also depend on nature. For this reason, we need an accurate environmental impact assessment. The environmental impact assessment, as you know, is a systematic process to assess environmental impact of a project to prior its approval. So the goal is to identify, predict, and mitigate the potential adverse effect on soil, water, air, biodiversity, local communities, just to make some examples. The environmental impact assessment, of course, is key for the energy sector, but also other sectors such as railways, motorways, express roads. as we said, it's key for the energy sectors. Those you see in green are all the plans we already made, we're already working with, so dams, wind farms, solar power plants, and biomass. So it's needed for this sector. Of course, the environmental impact assessment is necessary for most of renewable energy projects, and those are all the information that the project developer must provide in order to get the approval from the authority. So the description of the project, the potential of significant effect, the alternatives, the feature of the project, and the measure to avoid, prevent, reduce, or offset the impact on the environment. And the platform helps you to fill all these information. So these, of course, are the 6 steps, if we want to be more structured, of the environmental impact assessment procedure. So the first step is screening, so determining if the environmental impact assessment is required. Then the scoping, so defining the scope of the assessment. Then there is the preparation of the report, the public consultation and the authority of opinions, the decision making, and finally, the monitoring and compliance. In that case, especially if we talk about Europe, it was introduced as mandatory in the EU, the environmental monitoring plan. So in that, the platform helps you a lot. So for the assessment, so in the initial assessment, in order to fill and to get the approval, but also in the monitoring plan. So now we're going to go through how Ex Natura, the platform, can actually help in developing an environmental impact assessment, but also an environmental monitoring plan for the site. I just want to remind that actually the platform is, of course, it's a platform for biodiversity, nature, and climate strategy, and it's fully compliant with the main European and international standards, so ESRS, but also TNFD and the LEAP approach. So actually, it can be also used not only for the environmental impact assessment, but also for reporting reasons, so sustainability reporting reasons. So first of all, the first step is screening. In fact, the platform provides geospatial and environmental data to assess whether the proposed project is likely to have a significant environmental impact. The platform can classify land use and determine if the project is located in high conservation value areas, or the protected areas. This may help to quickly understand if there are problems, so if there is a problem on that. The next step is scoping. So Ex Natura helps identifying key environmental impact for the environmental impact assessment by providing detailed data on local conditions, including hydrogeological risk, climate risk, biodiversity, and ecosystem services. So the data we collect, I said this also at the beginning, we use a lot of different technologies, so starting from remote sensing, public databases, sensor on the ground based on bioacoustic, for example, to monitor pollinator and birds, camera trap for mammals, but also biomonitoring for beehive. And this is quite used in the energy sector, especially in solar power plants. We also use for the scoping the on-field survey and lab analysis. So all this technology in one platform, and you can find all the data from models, but also from the ground all in one platform. The third step is report preparation. So Ex Natura improved the report's quality, making it data-driven and evidence-based. The platform also uses predictive models to simulate potential environmental changes. So the i.e. generated annual report, offer an overview of all the sites and recommends science-based action. The document includes component characterization, so air, water, flora, fauna, and so on, impact assessment and mitigation activities, comparative analysis, restoration, and cumulative impact study. The first step, of course, it's public consultation and authority opinions. We know that this is a crux, this is critical sometimes. So the platform may help during the public consultation phase because it helps make things more transparent and easy to understand. You can actually share the environmental data, and this can be useful for local communities, environmental groups, and authorities that can better grasp the potential risk and benefit of the project. The fifth step is decision making. So Ex Natura can support you to make decision by providing risk assessment, scenario analysis, and predictive modeling. Decision maker may choose whether to proceed, modify, or leave the project thanks to the risk assessment. And finally, the monitoring. So as for the assessment phase, Ex Natura provide environmental data using technological tools also for the monitoring. In that case, the focus is validating impact models, monitoring sensitive areas, and also assessing uncertain prediction. This is the IVTech. It's one of the technology that we use to monitor. And this tech in particular, it's focused on honeybees. It's an IoT system that when applied to beehive, analyze the health stages of bee colony. And this is quite used, as I said before, in the solar power plants. Okay, I just wanted to remind you all the benefits from the platform. So risk and dependencies prioritization, scenario analysis, benchmark and target verification, click to generate report, faster bureaucratic practices, compliance with environmental impact assessment, environmental monitoring plan, and transparent communication. Now it's time for the demo session. So as the last time, we're going to use the platform itself in order to share to you some cases in the renewable energy sector. So we're going to see real, actual energy plans. And so I ask Lucrezia to join me on stage and to start sharing the platform.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Virginia, for your introduction. So I'll share my screen. So as you can see here, we have the demo platform. So this is how it would look like, but you could also, let's say, customize everything that you see here. So the description, the biodiversity project, and so on. So let's go to the monitoring section. And since it's going to be a little bit heavy for my connection, I will just close the camera in order to be more light on that. Here we go. So this is the visualization for, let's say, more than one site. As you can see here, we're analyzing 30 numbers of the sites for a total of 31,000 acres for 24 different production processes. But what I wanted to show you is one thing that Virginia underlined before, which is the prioritization. So to prioritize my sites, in this case, I will put, for example, the hydrological risk and the protected areas, the distance to protected areas, and I can see all my sites displayed in the matrix. So this is very useful to understand for which sites I have the most impacted on these kind of values. So in this case, we're going to go to see a site which is in Wales. It's here, and it's a photovoltaic power plant. I'll go inside the site, and as you can see here, we have the shape of the file, which is the pink one, and the control area around. In this case, it's a plant already ongoing, so you can see the solar panel here. But let's pretend we don't have the plant and we want to construct it. So I just go to the base one, where if I put land cover here, we can see that I put manually non-irrigated arable land. This means we don't have any solar plant in the area. But I can do a simulation. So I can plan a simulation here, and I just put the artificial services. So in this case, I as an input, I put solar panel. And then all the platform will be, let's say, generated in terms of a potential power plant here. If I go down in the scenario analysis here, you will have the difference between what would be the plant simulation and the base. So the base where I don't have any solar plant on the area, and the plant simulation. And I can see all the difference between site and control for the plant and for the site without the plant. This is very useful to have a scenario and to see what is going to change with a solar power plant in the area. So why do we do this simulation? We do it to assess how it is the area around. So how would be the impact on biodiversity, on local species, on the urban context, and so on, of a power plant in the area. So, for example, as I was saying before, we can start by the hydrological risk to assess if it's actually on a flood-prone areas or not. In this case, we have a level 4, so we're kind of at risk of hydrological risk in this case, and it is shown in the map. But also we have a precise dashboard for the risk, which is down here, which let's say tell us the physical hazards for the site. So we can see that we had 15 past events connected to the hydrological risk. And we also can see the probability of a generic event within 2 years and the probability of high intensity event within 2 years. This could also be conducted for the future analysis based on the IPCC scenario to see what would be the situation in a few years. As you can see here, we don't have landslide and erosion risks since we are not in let's say, in a hill. So for that, we don't need to worry. This is very useful to understand, of course, also not just let's say the risk, the natural risk, but also the financial risk. In this case, since it's a demo, this is not completed, but we would have the risk and opportunities for the site, also based on the fact that we are in a very high hydrological risk area. So this is very important when we need to start to actually generate and construct our power plant. In terms of hydrological risk, what would also be super useful to analyze in case of a power plant, a solar power plant, would be the rainfall in recent year, but also the future projection. Again, it is based on the IPCC scenario. I can choose the worst one or the better one and so on, but I see that we will have an increase in precipitation in the next few years. This is very important to assess because we need to account for local precipitation patterns to ensure that the system is designed to handle variation in rainfall without compromising the performance of the site, and as well as for the temperature, but less important in this case. But we'll see, it's going to increase. So analyze the risk. My first assumption was that I need to assess if the area around the site would be suitable to host a solar power plant. So what is the impact on local species, local biodiversity, and so on? I can see that we are in the middle of loads of protected areas, a small one, big one, and so on. And this would represent, of course, potential impacts on wildlife migration patterns, for example, because the site would be, let's say, could interrupt the natural habitats and the nature migration patterns of species like birds or bats and so on. And there's another thing which is very important to assess in terms of solar panel, which is, you may know, the solar glare effect. This effect is very high risk for birds because they exchange the solar panel from above with a pond, so with water, and they crash into the panel, presuming it is a lake, for example. So this is really important to monitor and to assess the bird behavior to see if they to ensure their safety of the local fauna and mitigating their disorientation on this case. Another risk, which is very important to analyze and to assess, is the ground temperature. So the ground temperature, it is important for solar panel because, as you may know, it could represent, it could increment the temperature for the area. And I can analyze it for different kind of months in order to assess if there is an actual increase in temperature in the area, especially if it is close to a urban site. This is also very important for other species, not just birds, but also small insects or small animals and mammals that fly or, let's say, live nearby, which would be impacted by the increase in temperature. Okay, so we assess the fact that we can be in a very sensitive area with the protected areas. We assess the hydrological risk, the ground temperature. We would have many other factors to analyze in order to see if we are actually suitable to construct a power plant there. But what I want to analyze is the fact that we can be prepared. If we assess, we can be prepared to the biodiversity impact that we have with the plant, and we can also monitor the let's say, the impact during the years. By doing so, we could install bioacoustic sensors, for example, for birds, but also camera traps for birds, but also for the small mammals that are living by. And also, what it was a thing that was analyzed before by Virginia was the beehives. So the fact that we can biomonitor, for example, the bees, but also other pollinators, in order to assess how biodiversity is doing in that area. So we can be resilient to the impact that we're causing, also by regenerate the area next to the site. Okay, so in this case, what we've done is to assess the prioritization. So before we decided to start with this site, and we conducted the plant simulation with this scenario. Let's go to another site, which is a wind power plant, this one. In this case, what I want to analyze in let's say for the platform benefits would be the fact that we have a benchmark analysis. So in this case, we have all the description for the sites, the regulatory context, and so on. But if we scroll down and we see the impacts and dependencies based on NCORE, we can see for the production processes of wind energy production, we have different kinds of value. In this case, as for the disturbance, we have noise and light. In this case, NCORE, which is a database that is also displayed here, you can click here and go to see the database, would put medium as for the impact on disturbances. But if I am the owner, let's say, of this wind power plant, I can say for sure that my impact, my bigger impact is on noise, since wind turbines cause a lot of noise. So I can go manually here, click to edit, and I can change the intensity of how my impact, how high my impact is. In this case, I put high, since of course noise, it's quite different from light, and I can analyze all the impacts from the table here and the dependencies as well. In this case, of course, what we need to assess is the fact that we are also in a natural area. We are in Romania, actually, and we are very close to the Black Sea. And the shape that you see here, I draw it manually, but it's also bigger than what it actually is. This power plant is 5,000 hectares wide, so it would have a very high impact, for example, again, on birds migration. So let's go to see how the protected areas are selected in the area here. We can see that we have loads of protected areas again. So what would be important to assess in this case would be the birds, but also bats that would be affected by the wind turbines. So camera traps, bioacoustic sensors, and other tools will help us to track migration patterns and to identify, let's say, if the area is actually frequented by birds, bats, and so on, that would have to fly over the space that where we have the wind power plant. This data that we collected with the sensors would help us to implement targeted strategies to minimize the collision risk with birds, ensuring both that energy is, let's say, generated and also the wildlife safety. Again, another important factor would be the ground temperature. In this case, it is based on satellite. So what is going on is the fact that depending on the field, we would have different kind of ground temperature. But for wind turbines, what is very important to analyze is the fact that the blades steer the air, mixing the cool air that is on the ground with the warmer air high up. This could lead to different kind of temperature and different, let's say, air circulation, which could have an impact both on species, but also on plants. And since we have all agricultural fields on the ground, this could also lead to an impact for the agriculture sector. Another thing that it is really important to analyze would be the species at risk. This could be done by the remark as well, where we have the potential to select the different kind of species with two kind of database, which are Biodiversity and iNaturalist, to see if there are any invasive species or species at risk. What am I saying is the fact that when we construct a power plant that is so big, so a lot of turbines with a lot of materials, maybe also coming from different kind of part of the world, some small species could be introduced and could represent a potential threat to the local species, to the autochthon species. So this is also very important to assess. And so analyzed all the impact and dependencies, the status of biodiversity and so on. Let's keep in mind that we can also generate a report at the end of our assessment. We can generate it automatically by pressing this one here, this button here, where we can keep monitoring the impact during the years and see if there are any potential threats that we're not considering in this case. Okay, so let's go to see another potential power plant, which is the biogas plant. In this case, we are in Italy. We are in an area of agricultural field as well in Lombardy. And what I wanted to show you in this case is the fact that we have a biogas plant, but if I generate the high resolution RGB, we can also see that we have a solar power plant right near our plant. This is because, of course, the biogas plant wanted to be autosufficient with energy, and so they decided to generate this power plant right there. In this case, what would be the impact and dependencies for the site would be, of course, again, there's disturbances for noise especially, and the area of land use, and of course, the emission of GHG and emission of other pollutants, as well as a lot of dependencies in terms of water purification services, rainfall, and so on. So as for air quality, this a sensor would be installed maybe next to the green areas here to control the air quality and the emissions of the plant. And all the data would be automatically collected into the platform to assess and to monitor how it's going on with my plant. And again, another important thing to take into account in this case would be the community. So how the community would react when a power plant is constructed next to urban context and so on. So again, the platform, which is very, let's say, user-friendly, would help communities, stakeholders, and so on to analyze, for example, the impact on land use, the covering natural habitats, and so on. And what I want to stress is this part here. So let's say the MSA part, the status of biodiversity, where we can monitor during the year the impact on biodiversity divided for animals and for plants, setting targets in order to match the controlled area around or to regenerate. In this case, since we have space, actually, so as I was showing you before here, we have some space next to the site where we could conduct regeneration activity. In this case, it would be useful to see how the regeneration can be an ally to prevent and to mitigate the activity that I'm conducting, in this case, the biogas plant. So with this, I conclude the part of the demo session, and I leave the word to my colleague Francesca, which she's going to tell us the client case studies for what we are actually conducting with our partners, let's say.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Lucrezia. So I will start from the case study that actually Lucrezia just explained to you and show you the platform, which is one of our clients, Edison Next, as you can see in the slide. So for this client, actually, we did a project on his biogas plant in the northern of Italy. And the aim of the project with this client was actually to assess, regenerate, and monitor biodiversity in order to improve ecosystems resistance in this plant. The future goal for this project is actually to reach net zero through site-specific regeneration actions that are actually we are capable actually to define with this client thanks to all the data and to the platform. For this client, we actually did an assessment of almost 3.5 hectares with the satellite images. And all the data that we collected, you can actually see it in a very transparent way on the platform that actually Lucrezia just showed to you. And for this client, we also did some regeneration activities through natural regeneration using native nectariferous plants, and also through artificial regeneration actions, such as the introduction of bug hotels and artificial shelters on site for pollinators, which are not only honeybees, but also wild pollinators. We also did some monitoring activities through the introduction of IoT devices, such as HiveTech Spectrum for honeybees, but also wild pollinators, and PolyX, which is a device that also analyzes air quality. Moreover, another case study that we can show to you is actually with our client, which is Cubico. In this case, the project was in a photovoltaic plant, and the aim of this project was actually to do assessment and on a standard brownfield photovoltaic site, which has been later on recognized as best practice by Solar Power Europe. So in this case, despite the initial resistance of the local communities, especially, we, thanks to the data and to the assessment and monitoring that we did on this site, we actually reached really positive feedback from local community. And given the success that we accomplished with this client during the whole project, the intention of this client is actually to expand this approach to all his company portfolio sites. Also, in this case, we introduced some IoT devices such as HiveTech and PolyX. And of course, we did the assessment of the site using satellite imagery and AI system and machine learning. So last but not least, we also did a project with RWE on an agrivoltaic site. In this case, we did an assessment of 3 agricultural sites in Sicily. And later on, this site will become agrivoltaic. So actually, this case study is very important because we did a simulation of how the agrivoltaic site will actually impact on biodiversity. So we did an assessment on the baseline and using the satellite imagery. And also we used IoT devices in order to monitor biodiversity before the introduction of panels and solar panel devices. And later on, we will study the effects of panels on biodiversity using all our technology, and we will see the delta, the differences between before and after through the simulation and through the actual monitoring that we will do later on. So here you have an overview of all the partners that actually already chosen us and are developing some project with us. And I leave the floor to Virginia.
Virginia, you have the microphone that it's not on.
Can you hear me now? Yes.
Yeah, now.
Okay. So the first project I want to tell you about is the beta tester project. So in order to gain some early access to X Natura and have some feedbacks from consultants and experts, we would like to open, the platform with a free access. You can join the platform with this free access by scanning and completing the form. So you can make the application, and in 2 days, we're gonna tell you if you are selected for this beta tester project. If you're not able to scan the QR code, we're gonna leave you the link. And also, if you join us from StreamYard, you're gonna receive a newsletter with the link. So you may also fill the application in the next few days, no problem. I want to also to update you on the white paper. So as you know, from each webinar we also write a white paper. This one, of course, it's on the energy sector. I want to remind actually that we have all the white papers, also the past white papers, and you can download them from our website, so X Natura website, xnatura.com, by going on resources. And there you can find all the white papers and all the information. Some other information are on our next events. So my colleague Martina Costantino, she's joining an event in Seville, on the 10th of April, so in the next 2 days. And she also going to speak there on the same day at 12. So if you are going to be there in these events, just join, and please feel free to reach Martina. On the 24th and 25th of April, still Martina is going to Paris for Change Now event. She's gonna speak also there on the 25th of April with a speech on biodiversity and nature approach in the industrial sector. So please feel free to reach out. Then there's another event in May in Milan on the 7th and the 8th of May. I'm joining, but also my colleague Nikki Silvestri is joining. The event is Strategie Sostenibili. We're gonna have a speech on the 7th of May with a case study, so with a client. This is very interesting, and I'm going to be the moderator of the second day of the event. Of course, we are presenting you, we're launching our Biodiversity and Nature Summit that we do every year. This is going to be the third year on the 22nd of May. So if you want to join, we didn't open the application yet, but you can write to us and we can send you the form to apply and to participate. And now the Q&A session. So the last thing I want to add, there is the QR code on, see here in the slide. This is the QR code to join our community on Telegram that tells everything about X Natura news and events. So if you want to be updated on X Natura feature, but also event we are joining, you may join the Telegram channel. This is also the link of the Telegram channel. So I actually said everything, so all the information. So now we can start with all the questions. So we may start with a very simple question. So Isabella is asking us if you're gonna have the presentation at the end of the webinar. Of course, yes. If you join us with StreamYard, you're going to receive the presentation on the newsletter. And there you can download all the slides. Actually, you're going to receive the white paper. So it's a more complete document. If you are joining us from Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, I suggest you to write to us so you can receive all the updates. Okay, so next question is from Robert. Bees are not the only pollinators. How do you assess other pollinators, say butterflies or beetles, that might not make a sound for acoustic recording? Maybe Lucrezia want to join and answer to this question.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Robert, for the question. Yes, actually, not only we are not analyzing just bees. We're analyzing different kind of pollinators. For those who don't make sound, so we are not able to use bioacoustic sensors. We're using camera traps, for example, to install in the site, and also other trap methods. But another one would also be Biodiversity, for example, where you can take a picture to the pollinators, to the different kind of species, and the app will be able to recognize which kind of species it is. Thank you for your question.
Okay, there is another question on from Maria Amalia. She's asking us, good to see that the assessment provided by Anchor can be adjusted in intensity. What if we need to amend one proposed impact dependency? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Maria Amalia, for the question. And yeah, of course, as I was showing you before, you can change the impacts directly on the matrix, on the table, sorry. And you can actually add new impacts and dependencies and modify it directly from the platform. You can change the parameters, and you can also, let's say, if you are a consultancy and you want to ask questions to the client, you can also let's say, add questions in order to have answer to the client that is using the platform. I would just share quickly my screen in order to make you understand what I'm saying. For example, here, as I was saying before, you can modify the impact here, but you can also add a question and choose template for questions in order for the other part to type the exact specific analysis they made, and you would have the data updated in the platform directly.
Okay, thank you. So next question, it's about our clients. So, hi, could you please give me some examples, names of your clients from solar and wind sector? Actually, Francesca already showed some of our clients. So those are, all clients that operates in the solar and wind sector. So I think you have a good idea of which are our current clients. Okay, next question. Next question is from Noemi. Noemi is asking us, what do you what do you take into account when assessing financial risks? So when assessing financial risk, we consider a variety of factors, actually, including regulatory changes, potential operational disruptions, and the financial health of the stakeholders. We also look at the environmental and social impact that could affect long-term value. Next question is from Frost. You mentioned sensor for air pollution. Are the part of X Natura solution, or they are not in the scope? I think the best to answer to this question is Lucrezia.
Yeah, of course. So I want to share again my screen just to make you understand how it is the sensor. So in this case, we're using PolyX to analyze the air quality, we analyze the PM 2.5 and the PM 10. So the tool is also, let's say, a refugee for wild bees, but it also have a sensors on below here, which collect the pollens and is able to assess the PM for the area. Of course, another one would be the HiveTech, which is this one, and which is the sensor for honeybee, which is also able to analyze this kind of, let's say, to monitor and to assess the air pollution. Virginia, we're not, your microphone is stopped. We cannot hear you. Virginia, we cannot hear you.
Okay.
Okay,
Now I'm here.
Wait.
So the next question is from Valerio. Have you ever considered including soil fauna in your assessments? Although it remains relatively unstudied, soil fauna plays a crucial role, particularly in relation to land use and its sustainable management. Yes, we actually already included soil fauna in the assessment thanks to ADNA analysis. So if the project requires this type of details, it's possible to include those type of data. Think about the platform as very flexible. So you have data from models, but you can also add data from other sources. So as the example Lucrezia made with the question on butterflies, so you can actually add all the monitoring data that you already have on the site. No problem in the platform, because the platform is very flexible, and there is space also for data that were not gathered with the platform or the sensor directly connected with the platform, but that you want to keep on the platform to have the general overview of the site. Okay, I think we actually answered to all the questions. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lucrezia and Francesca. You will receive all the updates on the newsletter if you join us through StreamYard. If you want to know more and you join us from YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, feel free to reach out and we can give you all the information. I want to remind that you're going to find already the white paper on the energy sector online on xnatura.com if you go on the research session. Okay, thank you so much for joining again, and we'll see you next month with the next event, next webinar on the production sector.